So I just got the news an hour ago that the League of Women Voters is going to be dropping lit in Madison, which is a great opportunity for people who are interested in some nonpartisan work.
Excellent.
Yeah, they did this in August, and they were targeting neighborhoods that tend to have low voter turnout. And it's not knocking, it's just leaving lit at the door about how to register to vote or order an absentee ballot.
So if people want to help, is there a phone number or a website that they can visit?
You know what? I think it'd be good if they call me or leave me an email, because then I'll get them on my personal list. So when we get the official word that it's time to start, I'll have them available.
Do you want to maybe put the OAP email instead of yours, or do you want to put yours?
Sure. The OAP email would be fine.
So the OAP email is OregonAreaProgressives@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
And Barb, you have access to that, or will, and then you can answer folks who want to drop nonpartisan voter information for the League of Women Voters in Madison, correct?
Correct.
That's excellent. That's excellent. And you also have, if people want to, as I remember, you have some connections with the City of Madison Clerk's office in case people want to volunteer to assist the Madison clerks in nonpartisan getting out ballots and maybe whatever clerical help they need, both before the election and during the day of. Is that right?
That's right. And people should send an email to that OAP address and let us know, and we'll put them on a list.
Excellent. Because your thought is that the Madison clerk's office needs help.
Well, I know that they needed help during the primary season, getting ballots together. So it seems likely they may need help again.
And if we're well staffed in Madison, people could also go on the website Power the Polls and volunteer for other areas in Wisconsin to work at the polls.
Yes.
So that's another area. So if they want to work in the Madison area, they're going to contact Oregon Area Progressives at Gmail. And if they want to work outside the Madison area, they're going to go to Power the Polls.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, it's 5:58. I'm still not seeing the live screen.
I am.
Okay, so if it doesn't come up, I won't be able to monitor questions.
If you go to posts on our webpage, you ought to see it. It's a little box in the corner on the bottom. Are you on your iPad?
No, I'm on my laptop.
Oh, okay. I can't do it that way. So,
okay.
All right. We'll do the best we can with questions. If we don't see them, people can post them on our website, or frankly, write in on the comments section on our Facebook page, and we'll get back to them. Okay?
Yep. Sounds good.
All right. Do you want to kick this off?
Yep. I think we can get going.
All right. Thanks, Barb.
All right. Well, welcome to this live Facebook event of the Oregon Area Progressives. Tonight, we are fortunate to have Beth Cox here. She's an attorney in the Oregon area, and she's going to be talking specifically about the Supreme Court decision that just came down yesterday with some good news. She'll be able to tell us a little bit more about what's going on with that and what it means for our efforts.
Okay. Thank you, Barb. I've been working with Barb Feeney for many years in Oregon Area Progressives. So welcome. Tonight I'm going to talk about, as Barb said, the Wisconsin Supreme Court decision. I'm going to talk about its meaning, its effects, I'm also going to talk about other pending voter-related lawsuits in Wisconsin and nationwide. I'm going to speak about what these all mean for absentee voting and how these affect you as a voter. The Wisconsin Supreme Court decision that came out yesterday was a 4-3 decision. I think most of you know. The background on it was that the Green Party requested to have their names on the November 3rd ballot. To get your name on the ballot, you had to have 2,000 signatures. After the Green Party submitted their petitions, the reviewing board, the Wisconsin Election Commission, found that approximately 1,789 were valid. There were challenges to the balance. So they didn't get the 2,000 they needed. At that point, actually sometime a bit later, the Green Party asked the court to stop ballot printing and mailing. They asked for an injunction and they asked for some other relief. As you know, initially the Supreme Court issued what's called a temporary injunction, and it stopped the ballot process from proceeding. That caused a lot of consternation among the clerks and perhaps among voters because it was confusing. But the injunction was lifted, and the end result is that ballots are going out by September 17th, and frankly, nothing has changed for absentee voters. Now, there was consternation about the Supreme Court issuing that temporary injunction stopping things, but in my opinion, after reading the decision, they did exactly the right thing. What they did, they stopped the process in order to collect information on what would be the effects of the Green Party request if granted. And here's some interesting facts, and I say they're facts because they're findings of the Supreme Court. That makes them facts. The court found that 968,000 Wisconsin people had already requested their absentee ballots. They found that some number, perhaps they thought thousands of ballots, had already been sent out without the Green Party candidates on it. They also found that state law requires absentee ballots to be sent out no later than 48 days before the general election. Given the timeline, and given the fact, according to the Supreme Court, that the Green Party waited almost 2 weeks before filing their challenge, the court made, in my opinion, the correct legal decision that said, basically, the court said literally, and I quote directly, voting has already started in Wisconsin. The court also said, and I quote, it's too late to grant petitioners, that was the Green Party, any form of relief that would be feasible and that would not cause confusion and undue damage. So in the court's ruling, although it caused some consternation because I don't think anybody really knew what their timeline was, they stopped everything, they collected information, they reviewed the law, and they came to the conclusion that they couldn't take any action. The Green Party had waited too long, and it would cause confusion and do, in their words, undue damage to credibility of the election process. So aside from the mechanics of this decision, in my opinion, the court went on record two things. They said that voting has already begun. That tells me, I may be wrong, but I'm assuming that further challenges may not be met because in the Supreme Court's words, voting has begun in Wisconsin, and a change to process, at least in terms of ballots, would cause undue confusion. The other interesting thing is that already, as of the early part of September, almost 1 million Wisconsinites have requested ballots. When I saw that number, those are already in. Those requests are sitting, and some of those requested ballots have been mailed out. I took a look at the 2016 total voting numbers in Wisconsin. It was about 2.5 million, and I'm rounding this. That means already almost 1 million voters have already requested their ballots already from what voted in 2016. To me, that's an interesting figure. The other thing it tells me is that, and this is important, your vote counts, your actions count. If 50,000 people perhaps had just requested their ballots instead of close to 1 million, the Supreme Court might have ruled differently. But because almost 1 million Wisconsinites took the advice of most officials and requested their absentee ballots, in effect, that did start the voting process. And it was a key factor in the Supreme Court not changing the process. So your vote or your requested vote matters. So what does this mean? What's the takeaway for us right now? Nothing changes. Point number one, if you haven't requested your absentee ballot, do so now. Go to www.myvote.wi.gov. If you're not registered to vote, you can go on the same website, www.myvote.wi.gov, and register. If you have difficulties with any of that, or you're not computer comfortable, you can call the voter hotline run in conjunction with the League of Women Voters and other groups. We're going to post that number on our Facebook page. I'm going to give it to you now and come back to it later. That number is 608-285-2141. Also, if you need help, you can email us at OregonAreaProgressives@gmail.com or message us on Facebook. So that's the takeaway from the Supreme Court decision. What's down the road? Now, there are other court cases out there. There's 3 relating to Wisconsin I'm going to summarize, and there's a host of voter lawsuits pending around the country. I'm going to talk about what's going on in Wisconsin for a moment. There's a lawsuit sitting in federal court that was filed on behalf of the Democratic Party and others to get an injunction to stop the federal government from slowing down processes that might affect absentee voting and the mails at the U.S. Post Office. That is pending in federal court, and a decision was expected about 2 weeks ago. We don't know what that's going to mean. The request was to stop, and I believe there was a restorative piece to that too. There is also similar lawsuits. Our Wisconsin Attorney General joined other states in filing in other federal courts with the same idea, to stop what was happening with respect to the post office insofar as it might affect voting. We don't have a decision on that. There are 2 court cases pending in front of the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Oral arguments are going to be heard on September 29th. And if you're interested and want to watch those oral arguments, you can go to Wisconsin Eye on the 29th. I'm not sure if they're going to be broadcast live or they'll be taped, but you'll be able to see them there. There's 2 lawsuits pending. One relates to voter purging, and the name of that lawsuit is Zignego, Zignego. And the second lawsuit relates to what's called involuntary confinement voters, and that's Jefferson versus Dane County. We're not sure when the courts are going to rule on these decisions. But what I can tell you is if you continue to tune in here, we'll have the latest information on that. The voter purge lawsuit may be decided or not. The Jefferson v. Dane County has to do with an injunction on using the term involuntary confinement to be able to request absentee ballots. Those two are pending. As I said, oral arguments are scheduled on the 29th. Now, there has also been a lot of lawsuits filed outside of Wisconsin. Nationally, there have been so many challenges to voting. It is said that there have been more lawsuits filed in 2020 on voting issues than on all the lawsuits from 2010 to 2019 combined. So in 2020, multiple lawsuits across the country were filed. Two parties on that, two active parties on that. Essentially, there is the group that is filing lawsuits that claim to want to minimize what they're calling fraud. And there's the other group of attorneys that are filing lawsuits and responding to lawsuits in order to open up the voting process to their perceived roadblocks. There is a summary of all of these cases. If you go on a website called democracydocket.com, we'll post these later. Democracy Docket is DEMOCRACY docket, DOCKET.com. Now, it's unclear as to what the effects of these other nationally sprinkled decisions are. It's only 49 days before the election. Most of these, to have a national effect, would have to go to the Supreme Court. It's not clear whether there's a path for doing that in the next 49 days. Any decision that takes effect in another state, it's very questionable if it has any effect in Wisconsin at all. And of course, depending on the parties, would be challenged. So it's unclear what any of these decisions will mean for Wisconsin. At this point in time, there doesn't seem to be much impact on Wisconsin. I can tell you that there's active legal teams on both sides of these issues. Republican-led activist groups and other activist groups are both filing and defending lawsuits, and Democratic Party and aligned legal groups are both filing and defending lawsuits, depending on the issue at stake. So, to repeat what I'm saying, the current effect of all of these things on Wisconsin is nothing's changed. If you don't have your ballot, you request it. When you get it, you fill it out as soon as possible. But in no event do you mail it beyond October 16th. So the ballots are supposed to go out September 17th. You get it and fill it out. If it comes around by October 16th, October 17th, and you haven't mailed it yet, the advice that we're giving you is don't mail it. It may not get there. It has to be received. The Wisconsin law is it has to be received by close of polls on election day, not when it's mailed. That's the law in Wisconsin. So if you have your ballot, if it's after October 16th, the advice is you drop that off in one of the authorized drop boxes. Oregon has one. It's in the parking lot by the Triangle Park area. It's the same box you drop your electric bills off on. You don't have to get out of your car. If you're in the town of Oregon, you go to the town hall. There's a drop box there. You have to get out of your car to do that. On later programs, we're going to show you how to make sure that you complete your ballot return envelope so that it's accepted and there's no mistakes in it. If it's getting close to election day and you have your ballot and you don't want to drop it off, then you're going to have to go in and return it to your clerk's office. If it's in the Village of Oregon, you call first because Village Hall is closed due to COVID. They'll come down, either open the door or meet you. Otherwise, your only option is to vote on election day. You can absentee vote or drop off your ballot up to October 29th, and then there's a blackout period, and then you have to vote on election day at the polls.
I do want to add one thing, and that is if you don't want to fill out an absentee ballot and drop it off, uh, you can also vote early, 2 weeks before the election. And my understanding is that the Oregon Village Clerk's office is going to have somebody in the lobby to assist you voting. And in the case of you folks who live in a township, you can look on your township's website and see if they have anything there about how you can early vote. But that is one more option if you want to avoid election day, but you want to be there and fill out your ballot and hand it to the clerk or somebody from the clerk's office.
That's a good point, and I forgot to mention that. So if you don't want to use the mail, as Barb says, you make an appointment, you go in, you absentee vote. All right, so
We
people
have a
ask,
question, Beth.
okay, what is that?
The question is from Marilyn McDowell, and she says, I'm concerned that DeJoy, who is the post office leader, I don't know his official title, is now prohibiting the U.S. Post Office Police from investigating stolen/missing mail. This opens the door to possible ballot theft or alleged misdirection of ballots. Thoughts?
My thoughts are that may be addressed with the federal lawsuit that several states, including Wisconsin, have joined. My other thought is that we worry and we stress over what we can control. And what we can control is our own ballot. That's why I suggest that you don't mail it in after October 16th. That's a very safe period. It gives more than 2 weeks for that ballot to get to the clerk's office. But if you're not comfortable with that, don't use it. Drop it off. That's why we have drop boxes. Drop it off or make an appointment and hand it to your clerk, or go in, as Barb indicated, and just vote absentee, fill out the ballot right there in front of the clerk. So we don't have to rely on these other actors. We don't have to rely on the Postmaster General's good intentions. We can control our own ballots, and we should do so. So that's my answer on that. Do we have any other questions?
No.
Okay, so people ask me, should I be worried with all of this stuff going on? And I say, yeah, be worried. But don't let that worry turn into paralysis. If you're worried about this election, and frankly, no matter which side you're on, I think everyone knows that our country is going to be different after the election. So no matter which side you're on, if you're worried about the election, get involved. And I'm going to turn this over to Barb, who's going to talk about the actions you can take to channel some of that worry into productive action.
All right. Well, thank you, Beth. The Oregon Area Progressives is organized to help people get involved, no matter what your preferences are. We have something that could suit you. We are helping people get connected to partisan kinds of activities, obviously for the Democratic ticket, as well as nonpartisan activities. And I'll just briefly describe some of these. And then we'd invite you to send us an email to our Gmail address and let us know if you'd like to have a call to talk through some of these things, or if you already know what you might want to do. We are going to be calling and texting voters with the Democratic Party. And the purpose of that effort is going to be to encourage people to order their absentee ballot. And then later on in October at some point, we'll be contacting voters who have ordered an absentee ballot but have not returned it to remind them to get their ballot in. We are offering assistance to our local clerks who may need help with ballots, for instance, getting ballots in the mail. That is a strictly nonpartisan act. Very possible helping the City of Madison clerk. They did look for help in the primary, and it's possible there will be opportunities there. We are available to help voters who need help completing their ballot or they need a witness for their ballot. We are making people available to help with that. We may be helping to drop literature in Madison in voting districts that underperformed last time. That is, they had a low voter turnout in those areas of Madison. And there's nonpartisan literature being dropped at doors, no knocking, just leaving it at the door to give people information about how to order their absentee ballot. And then we are also strongly encouraging people to offer to be a poll worker for the City of Madison. You can go to the City of Madison clerk's website and fill out a form where you can offer to be a poll worker. They still need poll workers. And obviously in Dane County, the biggest amount of votes are going to come from Madison, and we have got to be helpful to make sure that the polls have the workers they need to operate smoothly so people don't get discouraged and leave before they've completed their vote. So I would really encourage you to think about doing that. Those are the kinds of things we've got going, and we would love to get help. Also, it's possible we will have some Biden signs that need homes. So especially if you live on a route that gets quite a few cars, drop us an email if you think you might be interested in getting a sign. We certainly can't guarantee that we'll fill all requests because obviously there's going to be a big demand for signs. We've gotten one batch from the Democratic Party, and we expect to be getting more, but we don't know how many we'll have. So, Beth, have I forgotten anything?
No. Oh, we're writing letters to the editor.
Oh, yes. I was surprised a while ago to learn that the letters to the editor is one of the most read features of the newspaper. So, and also they are always looking for new voices because many people tend to write letters often. So if you've never written a letter, this is a great time to step up and write a letter on a topic that you feel passionately about related to this election. And we can offer some assistance if you've never done it and you'd like some tips. Again, send us an email and we'll connect you with someone who can kind of coach you through.
If there's a couple of minutes left, I want to talk about some of the legal cases that are being put forward to free up and make easier the process of absentee voting or voting by mail, if I could. These four things I'm going to talk about are the conceptual underpinnings of all the cases that are being brought forward by those people who are challenging restrictions on absentee voting. And they are common threads in all those lawsuits. So I'm just gonna, they're called the four pillars of absentee voting or voting by mail. And I want to talk about them briefly so our listeners can hear about them and think about them. First one is that postage must be free or prepaid by the government, so no voter should have to pay to vote. The second one that would affect Wisconsin, but not for this election, would be ballots postmarked on or before election day must count. So right now in Wisconsin, and the reason we're saying get your ballot in early, and it's important, is because if it's received on November 4th, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday after election day, it doesn't matter when you mailed it. It only matters when it's received, and legally it can only be counted in Wisconsin if it's received on the day of the election, that's November 3rd. So we're taking into account any post office delays by saying get it in the mail by by October 16th. But as a general rule, if you want more and easier absentee voting, you're going to change the law to allow any ballot that's been mailed before November 3rd or whatever election day is to be counted. The third pillar is signature matching laws need to be reformed to protect voters. What we've seen in some states is that absentee ballots are being challenged because the signatures don't seem to, quote, match other documents reviewed by election officials. This has been a problem if it's not used in good faith. And to try to tighten these review processes and make them clearer and more uniform across the board is one of the pillars of making absentee ballot and vote by mail more universal and safe. And then the fourth pillar is that community organizations should be permitted to help collect and deliver voted sealed ballots. This helps people who can't get to a post office. It helps on Native American reservations where there is no postal service because those are independent nations. And the US Postal Service doesn't go there. So that's considered by the groups that are looking to strengthen and expand vote by mail. Those are the four pillars. And I find them interesting, and I just wanted to share them with you. So as you look at some of these cases across the country, you're going to see these threads come up. If we have no other questions.
Beth, I want to put in a plug for the open mic
Good.
that's coming up on October 2nd. We're going to have a live Facebook event on Friday, October 2nd from 6 to 7. And we are quite excited about this event. We are going to be hosting Mary Beth Witzel Bale, who is the clerk for the city of Madison. And she has been an incredible champion for voters because she has bent over backwards in her job as clerk to make voting easy, to make it accessible so that nobody is left behind because they don't have the information or the opportunity. And then we are also going to have Deborah Cronmiller, who's the president of the League of Women Voters, who obviously has an organization that's championed voting for a very long time. But their specific topic is going to be election security, what you need to know. So we've asked them to focus on that topic. And I think it's going to be real interesting. So I hope you'll join us. And then, of course, we'll be here again next week on Tuesday at 6 to 7. Don't think we know the topic yet because who knows what's going to happen between now and next Tuesday.
That's right. I just want to remind people the open mic is Friday, October 2nd at 6 o'clock at this space. So you go to Oregon Area Progressive's Facebook page and we'll be streaming live. So if there's nothing else, shall we say goodnight?
That sounds like where we're at.
All right. All right, folks. Good night, and we'll see you next week on whatever topic is relevant. Take care, get those votes in, get your ballot, register, get help if you need it. It's all here.